So why were accountability institutions established for multilateral financial institutions?
Well, they were originally established, particularly through the World Bank, mid-1990s, with the so-called inspection panel in response to severe criticism that especially the Bretton Woods institution, but also other big regional multilateral financial institutions, operated outside of judicial oversight. I mean, the Bretton Woods and the Inter-American Development Bank and the Asian Development Banks, they have quasi-diplomatic status and you simply cannot take them to court. That the argument was that these institutions should be held accountable for their actions, just like national public institutions can also be taken to court. So this was set up as a mechanism to where people who say they have been negatively impacted by a development project financed by that particular institution can complain to and ask for recourse.
Great. Can you walk us through the complaint process?
You file a complaint, and in most institutions you have to show there's a development project financed by the Asian Development Bank, by the World Bank, by the African Development Bank. Because of this project, I'm being harmed. So what do these institutions do? They get the complaints. The panel, the accountability mechanisms go to their board, say we want to start an investigation. The board says yes or no. In most cases they will say yes. You then go and do an investigation. You come back with the investigation report. You come with a finding. Then the board has to decide we take this finding or not. If the board says we agree with your findings, then the board instructs management to rectify the situation. Then they have to agree on measures, how to rectify it, and in many cases the accountability mechanisms then supervise during typically 3 years whether these measures are being implemented.
How can we evaluate the effectiveness of these accountability measures?
Well, we are presently in the process of trying to evaluate this as a network of accountability mechanisms. Obviously, these mechanisms have multiple objectives. One, the most obvious one, harmed people should have a place to complain or to get justice. So you want to see, is this actually happening? Are people who file a complaint are being heard, and is something happening? So the other purpose is, to what extent do these accountability mechanisms help to assure that the safeguards, the policy being adhered to? They have a preventive objective. By the sheer fact that management of this institution knows that they can be taken to court with this mechanism, that will focus their attention, make sure that these policies are taken seriously. And lastly, you know, we also look how often are these mechanisms being used. Whereby, you know, these are not mechanisms which should be used 100 times a year. The cases are too big, too prominent, too expensive. But they have to be used on a regular basis. If they're not used on a regular basis, but just sit there as empty shells, then they're clearly not effective. So we look to what extent are they used and lead to results.